You are now tuned in to the On Track with All My People podcast with your hosts, Amber Peters, A.K.A. Mizz P.
And Daitwan David, A.K.A. Dr. Change, ain't nothing strange about it, A.K.A. Mr. David, A.K.A. Ayo Miss.
Oh my God, Daitwan, can we just start the show already? Hey guys, welcome back to Diary of a Post-Secondary Practitioner. It's your girl Mizz P here, and I'm here with who?
Daitwan David, a.k.a. Dr. Change, ain't nothing strange about it.
Oh yeah. So Daitwan, you want to tell them what we did for, well, I guess the last week, where we've been?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say you're glowing in the camera. I gotta switch. I didn't get my light situation up. Amber's gonna reveal something later, but I'm gonna get straight to it. So Amber hit me up one day, and she was just like, "Hey, I've never been to homecoming," and I was like, "Wow, there is no way that you can be in college access and not go to a traditional HBCU homecoming."
Never.
So we spent a little bit of time trying to figure out which homecoming could we actually get to that fit within our schedule, and then we landed on one specifically because Amber has friends in different area codes, and her best friend is in Charlotte. So we went to
Shout out to Shamika Fletcher.
Shout out to Shamika Fletcher, phenomenal hostess. Much love to her. Like, she is my new friend. So we made a trip and we went to North Carolina A&T homecoming, and Amber. First night. Let's talk about first night. So first night we get in, right? Then the next day
it was freezing. Number one,
first night was freezing.
It was brick. That's number one.
We brought the cold weather into NC, and people were looking at us crazy because they were saying it was not like this, right? There was one night I remember waking up and my phone said it was 30 degrees. Like, that's right. I did not sign up for that, but
at all.
I worked most of that day, well, that next day or whatever. But then we went to
in the airport.
And in the airport. Like, I was working. It was a retreat. I was still working or whatever. But we went to a step show. What was your experience there? What'd you feel? What'd you think about it?
Oh my gosh, like, the step show was so fire. So, like, I think for me, one, you're gonna see a black folk. So that was wonderful to see.
Different generations at that.
Different generations, right? Different alumni, right? Like, from most recent to, like, God knows what year, right?
Yeah.
And everybody has this pride for this school, right? Aggie pride was on full display. And, you hear about G-Ho, right? You hear about it all the time, but you never really know about it until you're in the midst of it. And the pride that they have for that school was just, like, out of this world. Just amazing to watch, like, how excited people got when they had to say Aggie pride, right? Like, that arena, you can feel the Aggie pride in your spirit just when they said it all together. Beautiful experience.
So I would say for me, like, that it was resounding and it resonated. And this is a competition. The step teams, the Greek-led organizations, they're trying to win against each other. So there are people that are naturally rooting for maybe their sorors or their frat brothers or whatever the case may be, right? But when it came to, like, that announcing that Aggie pride, the auditorium space was filled with. It doesn't matter where we are, what we are repping. We are representing this one singular thing, and that was beautiful. The show was amazing. There was, I want to say, maybe 12 to 15 acts. They had a setup that you absolutely love. What was the intro? Talk about that quickly.
So the one thing that I loved, and I think because I've never, right, I only see these step shows and stuff like that on television, right? I have never actually
Stomp the yard face.
Right. No, I used to step back in the day. Okay. Back in the day, high school, junior high school, to be on the step team, right? And so it was just regular, right? Like, you got on stage, you did your thing, you got off the stage. So to see this where it was like full production. So imagine all your favorite movies or TV shows that you enjoyed watching. And what they did was they adapted it to fit their sorority or fraternity. And so they created this little video montage that pulled you into the video. And then all of a sudden they start stepping. And then there's this whole great storyline based on a movie or film that you know about. And they just brought it to life. So I thought that was so cool and like so creative. And then it made me wonder, like, what was their budget like?
Yeah.
I'm like, this college now. When I was in college, I was broke. So how this work, right? And it could be like fundraising efforts, I'm sure. But like, I've never seen anything like that. And like the level of production that they put into it. Oh my gosh, like Chef's Kiss, like all of them. Amazing job.
Which one stood out to you? There was the reenactment of the Michael Jackson experience from, what was that?
Oh, that was obviously. I had the game, so you know I was excited. That was the Alphas, I believe. And they brought it into
the one with the whistle. The one with the whistle.
The one with the whistle.
You know the movie where they are pretty much competing against each other to survive.
Oh, you talking about Hunger Games?
There you go. I think I could do that whistle, but I won't try it right now. But yeah, that reenactment was amazing. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. I will do it later. So that was set. I would say it wasn't too much of a shock to me because in college, when we went to the step shows in college, they would have like whole skits and everything, but these were full on productions that they were doing.
These were productions. Right? This wasn't even a skit.
What? And then we did into the stories. So here's the crazy part about this. We were supposed to do the entire homecoming. So we were supposed to be in Greensboro, where A&T is at, but Amber's best friend lives in Charlotte. So it's about an hour and 30 minutes away. Now keep this in mind.
I don't drive for context.
Amber doesn't drive. Hour 30 minutes away. And on top of that, their speed limit starts at like it's 70. So typically speaking, people are going to 80. And you're driving 80 miles an hour, the time is not changing. You can't really go any faster to cut down time. So we were thinking about, we had a whole itinerary. Step show, then we're going to go out or whatever. Nope, go right back to the crib, get something to eat and go to sleep. Amber has confirmed that we are old. We were supposed to go to the parade and the tailgating. That got shut down.
First, I'm going to tell y'all one thing. You owe and you stay out past a certain time. Listen, let me tell you something, okay? Let me tell you a little something about me. 9, 10 o'clock, I want my bed, right? We on the road at 9, 10 o'clock that night, trying to get back to here.
Yeah.
To back to the house. We got back at like close to midnight because also we were starving. We were so hungry that we ended up at Wendy's, and I don't think like any of us like really like wanted Wendy's, but it was like we're so hungry.
We were hungry, and we were definitely there for close to an hour waiting in that line in Charlotte. So
naturally, things did not happen the way we expected it to happen.
Correct.
Next year, we're going to try again for North Carolina A&T and hope we get there a little bit earlier so we can enjoy the festivities a little bit more. But we got a taste of the experience. But it doesn't end there. We was in Charlotte for a whole 5 days, so we still got some things to share.
So we did like have a retreat. We had to kind of headbutt with each other, bump some brains, realign, and etc. And then we also had an opportunity to go on some college tours, which was a huge part of what we wanted to do within this platform. Of course, we are looking for ways to engage like the audience with like what we do as practitioners, but also to kind of be able to see what else is out there beyond our scope, right? So,
right. Hold on, let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there.
Pause me.
Because while we was on this trip, I just want to share that I learned a lot about your boy. Okay,
I learned some things too.
I learned a lot about your boy. Okay, one, I learned that this man needs sleep. Because the way that man slept.
Woo!
I've never seen it. I didn't even know Daitwan slept. But be honest with y'all. If y'all know Daitwan, y'all know he always in something. He always got a project going on. So I was like, whoa, he's sleeping in? We ain't going nowhere today. That's not happening. The other thing I learned about Daitwan, he loves to be moisturized, and we always have this running joke. If you've seen us on Instagram, you know there's a running joke. We trying to get something done. We trying to shoot something real quick. Hold up. He pulled out his bottle of grease, and he got to moisturize the beard, the hands, the face.
Now,
I'm like,
let me speak to
bro,
that.
right now.
Right now. I get it.
Too.
I get it. So Amber loves to set me up, right? Because there's going to be some videos where she just starts recording. Nobody's ready except for Amber. Right? You see her lighting right now, right? She is shining. You're seeing all of the undertones of her ancestors. Like red clay and everything, right? I want that for me. We can't be looking too much different from each other like that in terms of quality. So yeah, I gotta moisturize. Plus my hands are just naturally ashy, especially post-pandemic with sanitizer and all that. My hands get super ashy. So yeah, I carry a little something with me just to kind of hold it down. But let's think about this really quick to the first thing that Amber stated. I nap like nobody's business. I nap like I was in Europe.
You look over him?
Yo, I was napping. I was like, man, this feels different. I didn't have my children wilding or like, it was just like cool. But I learned something about you. You want to tell the people my secrets, right? What did I learn about you? So here's what I'll say. Variety of reasons. It's none of your business why. But Amber does not like to eat outside, right? Like she's very peculiar about eating outside. And I get it. I understand it. I've seen it. I experienced it, right? Doesn't like to eat outside. But when Amber is home, like in the safety of her people, boy, Amber gets busy.
I'm telling people I eat like a grown man. Don't be coming to me with no little baby plate because I'm going to look at you like stupid. Like
you said it. Now, let me tell you, this is going to be the running joke forever. Amber definitely had the grown man plate, but Amber also had a container of cookies, peanut butter cookies.
Listen, I didn't eat them all in one sitting. Don't be telling these people I'm greedy.
Yo, listen,
now, we bought cookies on Thursday.
Listen, them cookies did not stand a chance. It was almost
6 days.
I don't know if you know why it lasted 6 days? Because on day 3, I started joking on you about it. And so rather than getting 2 or 3 at a time, you was getting one and trying to savor it. Don't think you slick. You messed up.
Don't think you was buzzing. Sorry.
You were getting busy. And it was like she was in heaven. She was happy. She was sliding across the floor. Then she'll come back with a peanut butter cookie. Yo, shout out to
if you love me, buy me peanut butter cookies or chocolate chip with the M&Ms in it. I love you forever, I promise.
Yeah, you was like
insomnia. Just saying.
Yeah, you was getting busy there. So that's what I actually learned. So beyond
now we can talk about our tours.
Yeah, talk about the tour. What else have you learned?
I needed to tell the people that.
Peanut butter cookie face. So we're getting into UNC Charlotte tour. Shout out to you for kind of helping us to figure this out. We had an itinerary. This was one of the things that we wanted to make sure that that happened, like visit a couple of different schools, not just HBCUs, right? But schools that were within the surrounding area. If we could have gotten to a 2-year college, I would have loved to have gone to that as well.
I really wanted to see the school that Shamika was telling us about. We'll find the name for you, but there is a school in Charlotte. It's a 2-year school
right.
That is comparable to CUNY. And they have so much going on there. So I want to learn more about like that whole system because they have dedicated counselors from the college in the high schools trying to like actively recruit students, but also like teach them skills so that when they get to school, they're doing the best that they possibly can. And I thought that was dope to kind of hear. So when we went to UNC Charlotte, we were asking naturally about the program because we were learning so much about the landscape in North Carolina. Naturally, we're like, all right, let's go see UNC Charlotte and see what it's given.
Yeah. So we pulled up to UNC Charlotte and we were greeted by a bunch of robots. Right, like you'll see it in the videos, right? Like these robots were like delivery robots. It was super dope to kind of see what was happening with that. But then we got a chance to kind of engage on campus. We didn't have an official tour. We had to do like the self-guided walking tour. So we kind of went around to different spaces, checked the different like buildings, kind of seeing what was happening. And then we wound up in one building. And I think this building was pretty much like a one-stop shop. That's what they told me. where you was able to students were able to get information about registration, setting up classes, getting advisement and things like that. And then we walked into the diversity, equity, and inclusion office. And then when we walked into that office, I spoke to the gentleman, and this is where I have learned truly exhibiting like closed mouths don't get fed, because this is towards the end of the day, right? And so towards the end of the day, most people were leaving. And I spoke to the gentleman. I was like, hey, do you have someone that can speak to us about like the college and like the importance of the diversity, equity, and inclusion office? And he was like, yeah. Brought this lady out, happened to like Shamika happens to like
Ms.
be connected.
Brown. Shout out to Ms. Brown.
Shout out to Ms. Brown. So Ms. Brown comes out, and Amber, what are some of the things you remember Ms. Brown talking about?
Just talking about like the landscape and how, we were talking about, I think, affirmative action, and we were just like trying to see like what schools were affected and what like which schools weren't. And so it was nice to hear that, for them, the way their college is set up, that affirmative action or any laws around that did not touch them in any way. Right. And so they were able to still engage Black and Brown students and still be able to figure out ways to get them on campus. So that was not touched or phased or anything by that decision, which is good to hear. Especially when you think about North Carolina and obviously the history of North Carolina, to know that they are still actively recruiting students of color to their campuses because, those decisions don't affect them in any way. I thought that was really cool to hear, because I think after the summer, we had questions, right? Like we had concerns for our students and, where they can go to feel safe. And so knowing that they have an active recruiting process, they have programs specifically for those students, also specifically for first generation students as well. I know that if a student goes there, they're going to be good because there are active programs and resources for those students there. So that made my heart happy.
So we are on the same page about that. When I asked Ms. Brown the question of how UNC Charlotte was dealing with that, one of the things that she said is she was like, for the last 30 years, we were already ahead of this. They weren't, really focusing on race-based admissions. What they were doing in order to recruit was they were making sure that they had a presence in the high schools and had a presence in schools overall. Right now, she mentioned that the school has sort of like a pipeline. They have an extension program where they are working with elementary schools, right? Like to having programming there. They have a presence in the high schools. And one of the ways in which she advised other people that might be struggling with the change is to build a presence in the areas from which students need to be recruited from, right? Like go into the communities, go into the spaces where the students are at, and actively, not just tell them, hey, come to our school, provide them with a resource, provide them with something that's going to benefit them, regardless of if they come to your school or not. And I thought that was amazing, because that campus seemed like it had a lot of opportunities and resources for those students. And it seemed like it had, at least within the microcosm of what we saw, at least one department that actually seemed like they actually cared about diversity, equity, and inclusion in that space.
First of all, I just want to note how big UNC Charlotte is. Man. They don't call it University City for a reason. They have like their own bus system. Like that was kind of cool to see. They have their own bus system and like mini buses, right? Because there's some schools you go to, it's like maybe like 2 buses that like shuttle you back and forth, right. But they have like different buses that go to different places. Not only that, they have like a delivery service. So like when Daitwan was talking about the little robots, you can order food and you get a little robot that like brings it to wherever you are on campus. And I thought that was dope, but also a little scary. Be like, where these little things going? They're all over the place.
I was waiting to see the robot. The robot rolled up to the steps and I was like, yo, it's going down. And the robot was like, nope. And turned and like dipped off a different direction.
We barely, for we got to be real honest about this, right? We had 1 hour because we had a lot to do that day, right? And so in that hour, we were able to see maybe like a quarter of the campus. Sure. We got to see like the buildings where students got support. We got to see some of like the where the dorms were and things like that. The cool part is how they leverage technology. So like if you didn't get like a actual tour guide to guide you, there is a YouTube channel set up that can literally take you through the campus. So like if you're not there and you want a kid to be able to see the campus, without actually taking a tour, you can have them like go to the YouTube channel and go through the videos, right? So that's one way that they can experience the campus. The other way is if you're in the area and you can't get a tour guide, you can use it to go around the different buildings because they're literally explaining the history, what happens in those buildings and all those things. And I thought that was so cool for them to leverage technology in that way. So it was really cool because I was a little sad that we didn't get like the personal tour, the personal touch tour, but what we did get to see was really positive.
And I'll say one last thing before we move on to our next school. There's an image that I took that I absolutely love. It was an image of maybe 4 or 5 different whiteboards, right? 4 or 5 different whiteboards that were outside, right? And you saw like mathematic equations or whatever the case may be. And so what I really loved about that campus and what I love about campuses are those that extend education beyond like the brick and mortar inside of the school building, right? It's more so like, hey, we're going to provide a resource for y'all to be outside and be amongst the earth and the people and fresh air and like really engage in your learning in other spaces as well. So that was truly an appreciation there. I really did appreciate the setup. Amber, once again, we said we only got a chance to see 25% of the campus, but what we did see was beautiful. We saw the field. We saw like this, this fountain that looked absolutely amazing when you first got on.
Right, it's like a beautiful fountain in the middle of everything, and I'm just like, wow, like this is public education though. Right? Sure. Like this is not a fancy private school, but it still had the air of fancy private school. Even though it's definitely a state school. So I thought that was pretty cool just to kind of see like how the campus was set up and like how many different elements of art and like culture like built into the campus, and like also places for like little nooks for the students to just be comfortable and be themselves, little hammocks and little swings that they can study in. And I thought that was the coolest thing.
100%. So we went UNC the next day. We went to another tour we actually got a personalized tour, and I'm gonna switch up for this.
Switch it out, because we got to give them their props.
Let's give them their props, right? I didn't even take the tag off because I ain't planning on wearing it. But talk to us, Johnson C. Smith. You set this up.
Let me just tell y'all, Johnson C. Smith is slept on. Okay, on. Okay, from the beginning to the end, you can feel the care that they have for their students, right? Even in how they greeted this, like. Right. We came for a tour. There were some other families who came out for the tour, which I thought was amazing.
Let's pause right there. Let's pause right there because I want you to continue, but I want to state this. I want to set the scene up properly. When we got to the gate, the gentleman that I spoke to at the gate, when he was just like, hey, what can we do? Where should we park or whatever? Super friendly. This is a gentleman at the gate. He was like, you know what? Just move that cone, park over there. When we go to the cones, right? There's parking spots. We see the names of students. Like we didn't know. Like it's like what is? It's November. What's going on? We see names of students, and Amber's going to reveal where we see those names again. Because I don't know if you realized it, but Amber, we get into the space where we're having a tour. We're greeted nicely. Carry us through. What do we see on the board?
We get to there, and it's like welcome, and the names of the people who are on the tour. Right. So like, of course. Lord, Miss Peters, I felt like, who this for? Right? Because I don't use Miss Peters no more, right? So it was just interesting to see it on the screen. And she thought I was bringing a student, and then she saw Daitwan, and she was like, well, that's not a student. I was like, let me go add his name to the board.
I could have been.
No, obviously she was like, oh, I remember her saying colleague. In her mind, she thought I was bringing a student. She didn't think I was bringing another adult with me. So she goes and she changes the name on the board, and she tells us, she's like, we personalize everything here because everybody is family. Everybody is a part of this, right? Like they feel you to be so important that they want to recognize you from the door. I was like, girl, Go ahead.
Welcoming. It's a welcoming. It was almost like the equivalent of. I spoke about this. Like I said this in the chat recently. You got the Hungry Man meals, where it's like it got all the things or whatever, but then you got the home cooked meals. Like that was home cooking, right?
Yes.
Like it was intentional, it was personalized, you were recognized, and then the person that was in admissions that was leading our tour, she was recalling everybody's name and like personalizing that and just bringing in information and bringing the families in. So that was great. What stood out to you from that tour?
The library. So I think I almost shed a tear a little bit in the library because like when you watch these movies, so I want y'all to go to Stomp the Yard in your mind, right? And when the main character, he was having some trouble on campus or whatever, and they told him to go into the building that had like the history, right? Because he needed to understand what he was about to embark on and what he was about to be a part of, right? And so he goes there and he sees, pictures from the civil rights movement and things like that. And he's like, wow, right? He's instantly like feeling something deep because he's realizing, right? It's more than just stepping, right? I felt that way in the library. She showed us they have a museum, right? That is the history of Johnson C. Smith, right? And so thinking about the case board of Education.
Plessy versus Board of Education.
No, not Plessy. Brown versus Board of Education. There we go. Brown versus you took us all the way back to 1890 something. We ain't go that far back.
Brown versus Board of Education, yes.
And so she showed us the people that were a part of the case. And so they have images, they have firsthand accounts, they have the petitions, and they had this museum built to honor the importance of education. People fought for it, bled, and died for the right to be educated. And they have this in a space where you go to get educated, where you go to learn more, right? And so you're literally greeted with this. I also thought it was dope inside that library. They had the Dia de los Muertes, right? Like they had a shrine set up because they also respect other cultures. And I thought that was dope because when you hear of an HBCU, you instantly only think about Black people, but they're also honoring other people that in other cultures within that culture. And I thought that that was the thing that stood out to me the most, was just that. And then also I think near the bookstore, there are some quotes there that are like reminiscent of just like trying to let you know that the world, like we are all family, right? Like no matter what color, creed, race, right? We are all part of this larger family. And so there's these world statues in front of them with all these quotes signify. And I think even now in this day and age where we see everything that's happening with, all these wars breaking out and all these people dying senselessly for whatever reason, it helped you to remember like there's a bigger thing at play, right? Like we're all a part of this fabric called life. And I thought that was so cool because it's honoring everybody, not just the brown people on campus. So I thought that was dope.
Yeah, let me get back to that before I get flamed. It was Brown versus Board of Education. The other thing that was referenced is Plessy versus Ferguson. It wasn't referenced there, but I'm seeing a total connection. The space in that library, it helps students to understand the why, like, understanding what it took for them to have the opportunity to have education.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Education being a civil right, like what that really means for them in total context. And there was a lot of artifacts that kind of showcased the history. Another thing that I thought was interesting is like, just who Johnson C. Smith is, and just being like, well, why is the HBCU named after
a white man?
A white man, right? Like, and like getting into the history of like what that was. So there was a lot of context there. What I appreciated about the tour, like the home cooking, right? Like that we're talking about homemade biscuits and gravy or whatever. Like that's the kind of feel you got, right? Because there was a space that you were trying to run to. Keep in mind, when she eats, she eats. She was trying to get to the Red Velvet cake place.
Oh yeah,
you had to run to the airport.
Oh yeah,
but
wait, for context, they have a a coffee shop on campus that is a Black-owned coffee shop. The lady who created the coffee shop, she passed away, but they kept the coffee shop going in her honor. So her family is actually like running it, but the students on campus help out. Like they get a chance to work on campus at this coffee shop owned by this Black woman, which is her legacy. And I thought that was cool too. That was really cool. But I really wanted that cake though, because it told me the best in the world. So when I come back to Charlotte, I just got to go to Johnson C. Smith to make sure I get a piece of that cake. Just a little bit.
Tour guide, chef's kiss to the tour guide. Her name is escaping me right now. We'll put it in this caption or whatever. One of the things that she did was she was very intentional about centering students in that space. Like we talk about, and if you're a practitioner of youth development, right? Like, centering students, right, is one of the principles of positive youth development. She centered the students first and then expanded to the families, right? Students.
Her name, Melvin E. Jackson.
Melvin E. Jackson, perfect. So Melvin E. Jackson, shout out to you. You get your flowers and your praises because you did your thing.
You did that.
Yeah, for sure. She centered the students first. What are you interested in? What is your experience? Yes, we can connect you with this place. If we don't have it here, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I'm explaining to you what this particular place is. And then she would get the parents engaged in the process as well and ask them questions. And going on the tour, something that she did, she talked about fit. And I'm like, man, this lady can Ms. Jackson easily can shift over to college access. But she talked about fit. She took us to a classroom that probably held about 200 students. And she was like, hey, this particular space is a space where if you're going on campus, a lot of your classes are going to look like this and maybe even bigger. You're not going to get that personalized attention to understand and connect with your professor. You might be connecting with a TA, right? Then she took us to the actual classrooms where they had their classes at. And she said, maybe it might be 15 students in this class. Sometimes it's significantly smaller. And with that, for some students, that is a phenomenal benefit to their learning process.
11 to 1.
11 to 1 student ratio, right? And they mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, 80% of their faculty have conferred like the highest degree in their fields, right? Like, so they were being taught by people who were in the upper echelon of their educational knowledge and experience in this space. I thought that was absolutely phenomenal. So, I have a couple of people in my family that are looking at colleges, and I'm like, this might be a fit for one of them in terms of being able to research, right? Like, it's a small school. I think around 5,000 students. Was that the number?
1,000.
No, it was
something like 1,500. She was telling us another school is about the school she went to about 5,000.
Correct.
That school is about maybe like 1,500 students total.
Right.
Which is great for a young person who like needs a little bit more attention, right? Doesn't want to feel like a number. The young lady that was a part of the tour, she was a student ambassador.
Freshman. Freshman. I'm gonna tell her story. Continue.
So she was talking about like everything she loved. She seemed to love it there, right? And like she was clear in her decision-making process that she wanted not to be a number, right? Like she wanted to be somewhere with somebody where everybody knows my name, right?
Right. Don't sing again.
She really wanted that. I won't try to sing it again. But that's what she was going for. She wanted like people to know her, right? And like want the best for her and like show it. Right. And so when you have class sizes that small, they're saying, you can have 10 people in your class, right? People drop, might be 5 people in the class. You might be the only person in your class with your professor, right? You're getting the most personalized experience that you can possibly get. And she said for her, that absolutely worked for her.
Yeah. She said that when she got on campus, she was touring schools. She knew and felt like this is the school for me. And I really did appreciate that because we've also talked about like the importance of going on tours, and that she explained like that was one of the importance of it. She also talked about how her high school experience really shaped. I think a lot of her education shaped her to be ready for this experience. Right? She's a freshman. She's only 3 months into, being on that campus. She's already a part of the tour guiding experience. Right, because of how she's acclimated to campus, how she set herself up for success, how she's gotten scholarships to the point where she has leftover money to be able to do other things that she wants to do. She has a remarkable major. She's doing health, and I think she's minoring in dance. And she talked about physical therapy. So she's set up for success. And it was great to see like a freshman leading that tour versus the upperclassmen because, an upperclassman I definitely think can provide another level of context. But for a freshman to kind of really like, hey, you're going to be here in a couple of months. Let me give you the raw about what is going on. I thought that was excellent. So shout out to Johnson C. Smith. The ladies that we met in the bookstore were like, they were welcoming and loving as well. And like, so it was just like overall, I think in all of the spaces that we visited and navigated, it was just like a welcoming space altogether.
Just amazing. Like amazing. The hospitality, like is beyond, right? Because like, if you come from certain experiences in certain colleges, you might not get the warm and fuzzies. You might not be greeted with a smile. You might not have that experience. So like for me, it was really nice to kind of see that. I don't know if it's a Southern thing. I don't know if it's that particular school, but like we definitely felt the vibes on that campus. We can see why the kids are so excited about being there. We can see why the staff is excited about being there. Because I think also that trickles down to like what people want to offer, right? When you see people going above and beyond, it's because they feel, right? They feel charged to do so. Sure. It's their duty to like make everybody feel safe and wanted and protected. And that also trickles down to how they treat each other as staff members, right? So I think that's really dope to kind of see how closely they work in the admissions office, and then to see how their way of being also translates to how they treat the students as well. And I think anybody that go to Johnson C. Smith, like I think it's definitely an option for a student who wants to get the on-away experience. The great part, the one thing that they told us about the tuition is that the tuition is the same no matter if you're in state or out of state. And I said, what?
Right.
Let's talk about that, right? Let's try that on for size, because a lot of schools are not doing that, right? A lot of schools will be like, hey, you're from out of state, we're going to charge you a little extra. And they said, nope. Our good rate of tuition is going to stay for anybody who wants to come here. So anybody that wants to come here, you get that experience. And also they have tons of scholarships, right? To offer. They also are, what we learned from the history is like, they are the creators of the UNCF scholarship, right? And so they also have ties to the UNCF scholarship. So there's tons of money there, as long as you obviously have the grades and the profile to get it, right? And you could be winning money throughout your whole entire college education as a student there. I thought that was cool.
Quick hits before we move on to the next section. They were the school to start historically Black college football, right? That was part of what we learned there. So there's a lot of history within Johnson C. Smith. In addition to that, they were the first HBCU to onboard and have esports as a part of their program, right? They have an esports as a minor.
Yes. Can we talk about that?
Let's talk about that.
First of all, esports is up and coming, right? It is one of those majors where, some people don't feel like it's a real job. Wherever you stand on that issue, it is up and coming. For brown people, though, right? There is not a lot of us within that field. And the fact that they created a program, right? And like they're actively growing their program within esports, and it's getting around the HBCUs to make sure that we have representation within that field. I thought that was dope. They had a whole lab. That lab was fire. I got to get one of those chairs because that chair looks super comfy.
Yeah, gaming chairs were dope. So they were the first, and they said afterwards 60, I think she said 61 HBCUs have now adopted esports in some capacity, right? It's one of the emerging fields. It cannot be denied its importance. And schools, strategically, it makes sense for schools to cater and meet the needs of students that have this growing interest. So we'll have an episode, I'm sure, talking about like emerging majors in college, and esports is definitely one of them. Another thing to mention, last thing, we'll switch over, was that I asked her, Ms. Jackson, how would she describe, beyond the academics, a student that is successful there? And one of the first things that stood out to me that she mentioned is Johnson C. Smith is a school for students that are looking for a second chance, right? Like they might not have been able to get into other schools, but Johnson C. Smith, because of that love, right? Because of that homemade oatmeal, or I know you don't like, no, you do like oatmeal. I learned that too.
Like
She does like oatmeal. She was eating oatmeal with a whole breakfast, but I ain't gonna talk about everybody. I'm gonna talk about your business. Right. But so that loving is like sort of like, hey, we believe in not just second chances. We believe in you being able to have this as a viable chance. You belong here. Your life is still meaningful, right? And I thought that was super solid. They broke down like the different tiers of what students would get accepted. They had an option, sort of like a SEEK and EOP program, HOP program, where students would have to spend a certain amount of time before they started college in order to get in. Otherwise, if they were accepted to the program under those conditions and did not attend, they would have to start off at a 2-year college and then try again. So there was a lot of support for students that may have struggled academically. There was, definitely incentives for students that do well academically to be able to get aid to support the cost of attendance. So shout out to Johnson C. Smith. Definitely a phenomenal tour that we received. And I think a great school altogether. That's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So like to close out, we just want to let you guys know that it is absolutely important to get your students involved in college tours. I know that sometimes our work is so big and like there's only but so much time, but we really need to prioritize college tours because we know sometimes parents aren't always available to provide that experience, right? So whatever we got to do, if we got to fundraise to make sure that students have experiences on campus, maybe we go to the schools that we are like, we know students get into often, right? We have a lot of students that end up at this particular school. Maybe that's the school we need to go visit, right? We also get to take local tours as well because they just need to be able to see different campuses, different campus sizes. They need to be able to speak to different types of students, see what their experience is like. All those things are really, really important to helping a student to make a decision in the future. Without that, like it makes it really difficult for them to make a full decision at the end of it, right? I'm going to this school. You have you seen it? No, right? We hear that a lot, right? They're going to schools they have never seen, and then they become disappointed or disillusioned. Like, I thought this was going to be like this, but like maybe they only seen it on television or they only seen it on YouTube or UVisit or whatever virtual tour they took. We need to get them on campus. We need to get their boots on the ground.
100%. The families showed up. And I think that's the important part as well. Like, so the families can get comfortable with that and fully understanding what's happening on the campus. Couple of best practices. Please do not fall in love or reject the school based on the first person that you meet, right? Don't fall in love with it, or don't say like, I don't like the school based on the first person that you meet. Really get a chance to kind of fill out the campus, because that one person may not be like the best representation, and there's also never going to be like a full representation of the school, right? The people that we met, I think, were absolutely phenomenal, but it could be a larger portion of campus that is on the total opposite end of the people that we met, right? So that's important. Another thing to kind of pay attention to was it is important for people to do their own research, and I'm going to explain this. UNC, that particular campus that we went to, had a major incident a few years back, right? And I bring this up because in us going to the campus, I remember us going to the campus and like, man, this is an open campus, right? Like it
was really open,
super open, or whatever the case may be. And we still see like the camp people are walking around that campus happy, free, in shorts, like as students. Something that I've known to happen, and I think it's possibly because of the students that I worked with, is when my students talk about going to HBCUs, they love it. But when they hear there's an incident that's happening at the school, it's like, I can't go there. We had Clark Atlanta a few years back. You had Morgan State a couple of months ago, right? Really challenging situations. And I want people to, yes, it's concerning, right? It is concerning when these things are happening. But I want you to understand, like, these things can happen anywhere, right? Like it shouldn't feel as like a greater issue just because of the campus that it is. Like it is an HBCU, so therefore they're not able to kind of take care of, recover from what was happening or whatever. I want people to choose whatever makes them feel comfortable and safe, but I just want to make sure that in the grand scheme of things, that when we're thinking about what is happening in one place, that we have to put it in full context overall. That's the main thing I wanted to say. So you explained the importance of college tours. Do I get a chance to kind of talk about my visit to Syracuse? Is that still a thing?
You sure can, if you want to.
I do. I'm going to do this really quickly. I'm explaining this. So I have, we can call him, sometimes I call him my godson, someone call him my nephew, him and his brother. Their mother and I are super close from college. And those boys have been a part of my life, my heart, for a very long time. One of them is currently attending Syracuse. And is super close to my children, in particular my daughter. Like she considers them like her big brothers. So our family took the drive up to go see him. And I'm going to show the video. I didn't put it up yet. I'm going to show a video. As soon as he sees us, we're playing music loud and he's dancing, coming up to the car and everything. And it's a vibe. It's a dope experience because I've seen this man, literally this young man, when he was in diapers. To now see him like he's happy on campus. I took him on his very first college tour, where he was actually in his mind committed to going to Howard University. That did not happen. He got to Syracuse, got a really phenomenal financial aid package. And I would say that what's interesting is that in this diary, I'm talking about my experience right now with my daughter, who's an 11-year-old. She's sixth grade. We are doing a interview process for new schools. And every single thing that we're doing, that we do professionally for college, I'm having to do it for this process. And my skill set, I'm pretty good at what I do, but sometimes it doesn't translate when you're a parent. And I have so much empathy for parents, especially if they are not in the field, because it is rough doing this. One of my saving graces right now is I think I have really solid relationships with students that are like older, like, people that are older than my daughter, but significantly younger than me, like her. She considered her older brothers. But she got on campus, she was like shadowing him. She got a chance to see the different departments. They had their own esports lab that was just like, woo, that was top notch, right?
I'm
like,
sure Syracuse be doing it.
Syracuse, I don't want to say that the tuition, but Syracuse cost of attendance is crazy. But anyway, her being able to kind of get to somebody that is not necessarily a near peer, but closer in age, showing them like, hey, here's the campus. This is where we take classes at. This is the gym. Like, a personalized tour. My daughter absolutely fell in love, was like, hey, I'm going here. And that's not her thing. Like, that hasn't been her thing to show that kind of enthusiasm. She's just like, oh, we're just still walking and I'm a young teenager and yeah. But yeah, she was in love. And so being able to like now see the college tour from the context of somebody that she respects and admires, she was like, yo, I can do this. Now it's created a lane for me to like, let's go on more tours. So I would say that going on tours definitely helps, even when they're younger, if you set it up properly, for them to kind of start to create a concept of what is it that they like and don't like. She was able to see like, hey, I want to be able to go to a place that has an open environment, that the classes are not too crazy. Like she's now kind of thinking about all of that. One quick story, because we had a chance to take my nephew. We was like, hey, we're going to get you a care package, but we're just going to take you to Target to get you some things. So we took him to Target, we got him something to eat, came back. He was telling us a story of how, in his first couple of weeks, him and his friends were walking in the neighborhood. Similar to many schools, a lot of the popular schools are surrounded by what we affectionately know as the hood, right? So underneath the bridge, he is walking with his friends. He's walking past. He was like, yo, I live by the hood. I was like, you grew up in the hood. We grew up in the hood. It is okay. He's like, all right.
So I don't know. This hood might be hooding a little too hard.
It might be hooding. Like that hood might have been hooding. So he said he was walking with his friends and, he sees a group of people, young men, and, they start looking at him. Then they start walking towards them. Then it was like, yo, where y'all from? And then it was like, at that point in time, he was like, I know what that question means. It's time to be out. So they got chased, right? And it reminded me of the scene in what is this movie? Oh my God.
Movie.
School Days.
Oh, okay.
School Days. There's a scene in School Days where the gentleman from the school are at KF, like they're college students.
They went to the chicken place.
KFC. They went to KFC and they got pressed. Right. They got pressed, right, by everybody else that was from the neighborhood. And
yeah.
Basically a conversation about you don't belong here, and I do belong here, etc. And justification to a degree. And I was like, man, like there are real issues here, right? Like in terms of what can be the case for people to feel like maybe Syracuse doesn't provide access to the community. I don't know. But I was like, man, that's crazy that happened. I've experienced that at my school as well. But it was funny. And I'm going to end it off with here. I was with my wife and I was with my 2 children and we were driving back through that same bridge. And he was like, wait, that's one of them right there. That's one of the main ones. I was like, yo, stop fronting. He's like, he looked, he was like, yo, that's him. So my wife looks at me and I was like, I know what that look is. And I was like, yo, you want us to pull over so we can have a conversation? But he's like, no. We don't got to do all that. But we want to stop anyway. We got 2 children with us. And, I got a different role right now, so I can't be pulling up on young people. Like, y'all need to chill out. But I feel like overall, it is important for you to go visit campuses because things like that, like some people go to visit schools and they just hear the school name and they're in love with it, but they're not in love with the surrounding area. For instance, Fordham University. You can be on that campus. You can be on that campus and your campus is gated and closed off to the world. Like you can go there for 20 years and not know what's inside of that gate.
My first time being on, imagine, I'm a Bronx native.
Yeah.
Right. My mom and dad used to live on Fordham Road for a bit. Mm-hmm. Right. My family, when they moved here from Antigua, lived very close by to Fordham. So Fordham was always a part of our lives. Mm-hmm. First time I went to Fordham for a tour, probably 2014, 2015, the first time I've ever been on Fordham's campus. And when I say I walked in and I felt like I was in a different world, right? It was like being in a different universe. And it's like, this couldn't have been here this whole time. There's no way that this was here this whole time. And it threw me off because here I am growing up right around this and never saw this. And then, of course, my question is, why can't, Fordham Road look like the inside of Fordham University? It's literally on the same block. So that that always kind of threw me off. How is this beautiful thing in the middle? Not to say that Fordham isn't beautiful, it's getting there, right? But we know Fordham. If you know Fordham, you know, right? So it was just very interesting to see that, and that always makes me wonder the student profile of the student who decides to go there. Do they consider the neighborhood before picking it, or is it you can completely disregard all of that because you know the experience that you're going to get on the campus is top tier. And so you say, you know what, although it's right here, I'm still good, right? It always makes me wonder, what goes into the thought process of the person who chooses that school, knowing that the neighborhood that it's connected to doesn't look anything like what's inside.
So there's a lot of things for us to unpack.
That's so much to unwrap. We
might have to invite.
We already at the end. We're not going to start a whole.
We're not going to indict it. There's a lot of things to unpack because I'm curious to see how Fordham is marketed. I affectionately love Fordham. I grew up there, shopped there, back to school. So many things were done on Fordham. I think it might be. I don't know what Fordham does right now. I don't know how does the community benefit get access? The real community, does the community get access to Fordham?
The school I used to work in used to have their graduation on campus at Fordham. I don't know if they still do, but when I was working there, they would, and they're in that Theodore Roosevelt campus, so they would have their graduation there every year.
Right.
It is open for certain things, but I don't know how invested in the community they actually are. I do know that there is a Fordham STEP program that is a program geared towards college exploration for students that is there. That's a really great program, and it is something that happens during the summer and also during the year for students.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that students from the Bronx have like maybe they get first dibs or whatever because they're from like the area. I don't know that that's true. But they do stuff like that. But I don't know like what the full investment into the community is. Couldn't tell you.
We can investigate. We got some people, friends of the show, that are from Fordham that we can talk to about their lived experience there as well. But wrap us up. Take us through what are we wanting people to leave this episode with?
So one, right, for us, like I guess we can conclude our diary by just explaining the importance. I think us being in a different state and seeing how the other half lives and how they are doing college access, I think it is worthwhile to look and see how other people are doing it. I think also the other thing is, right, this importance of college tours, right? Even as the adult, the teacher, the counselor, right? You also get to take tours as well and try to envision some of the young people that you work with on some of these campuses so that you can make better recommendations to them as well. So I think that is the thing that I want to kind of leave. Like I was happy that we got to see the other half and be able to see how they're doing it down south. And also seeing just how this work is working other places. So, yeah.
I'm going to challenge you for last 60 seconds, and then we're going to shut off right after that. I want you to do a diary entry to young people, dear young people, as it relates to tours. 60 seconds. What do you want to say? Dear young people, as it relates to tours. So you're going to start out, dear young people, and then talk to them about college tours and importance. Let me know, because it has to be 60 seconds. Let me know when you're ready.
Dear young people, touring is a natural part of research. If you want to know how you fit in the grand scheme of things, you having your feet on a campus is going to tell you everything you need to know about yourself. It's going to tell you everything you need to know about the people, the environment. Ask questions, explore, right? Look around you and like really envision yourself. If you feel like in your heart of hearts, if your shanana, right, feels weird, right, maybe that's not the place for you, right? If you go on the campus and your shanana is going woo, right, like you get the tingles, you feel excited, you feeling goosebumps, right? That might be the place for you, right? And so you cannot get that feeling unless you actually do it, unless you actually go there. So take a tour.
There we go. Dear young people, on track with All My People podcast. Amber, close us up.
Listen, we want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for being a part of the journey. We really appreciate you guys. We want to ask you for the comments. If you are a practitioner, I want you to tell us, like, what was the best tour you ever been on, right? And like, how excited were you to share that back with your students? That's going to be the question that we want to leave with you. But thanks again for tuning in. My name is Amber Peters, A.K.A. Mizz P, and I'm here with
Dr. Change, A.K.A. Peanut Butter Cookies. Listen, if you ever have peanut butter cookies around, and Amber is going to take them. I'm just letting you know in advance.
Hide the kids, hide the wife.
And hide the peanut butter cookies.
I'm taking all the peanut butter cookies today.
We are out of here. See y'all.
Peace.